Hey, everybody. Ron from New England here from the Wicked Planet podcast. Got a special treat here for you tonight. I want to welcome our friend David Weiss from the Flat Earth podcast, who's agreed to come on the show and talk about Flat Earth. Dave, how you doing tonight?
I am doing pretty well. Thanks for having me. Love talking to people.
Yeah, I was excited to get you on. I know that we spoke before when I was on the Dangerous World podcast, probably, I don't know, about a year ago, I think. You probably
Okay,
don't remember that because you do what? You do 6 shows a day now.
something like that.
The crazy man, he's everywhere. He's like savoir faire, he's everywhere. But anyway, so Dave, let me introduce you to my co-host Kristen up there. She's agreed to come in on the show, and we normally do shows in the studio, but so this is a little bit different for us. I think this is our first real Zoom uh,
Okay.
show that we are doing with this many people on. So anyway, so thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come
No,
on the
no
show.
problem. No problem.
Hey, also want to thank my buddy Mark. My family thinks I'm crazy for hosting the meeting. My man, he's got the good Zoom, so I hit him up for a little help tonight. So Dave, we all know, we're all familiar with you. We've spoke before several times, and I'm sure a lot of listeners are familiar with you. But for the listeners that are not familiar with you, do you want to give us a little background on yourself and what brought you into this whole flat Earth genre that we have going on?
Well, the truth brought me here, and I went in like every flat earther has the same story. We went in kicking and screaming. I didn't want to look into flat Earth. It's the dumbest thing ever, and I was doing other important work on other deceptions of this world, and then people started sending me flat Earth stuff, and I was like, "You're deleted. You can't watch our podcast anymore. I'm blocking you from ever commenting, and if I could block you from watching, I'd do that too because you're so stupid even to suggest that the Earth is flat." So then, finally, I was having a long conversation with my good friend Sophia Smallstorm, and she's like, "Oh, Dave, the deception's bigger than you think. I think the Earth might be flat." And I was like, "What?" And she goes, "Here, watch these videos." And she sent me a couple of videos. I was like, I'll watch these and I'll destroy them. Of course, we know the Earth is a ball. Boats over the horizon, day and night, seasons, right? And when I started watching these things, I'm like, wait a minute, there's something here. So then I guess I got more pissed off. And I said, I'm just going to go in and prove the globe and disprove flat Earth. Either one will do the same. And for 2 weeks, I didn't sleep. I was all day and night. And back then, YouTube's like, oh, you watch that, watch this. And they would serve you awesome video after awesome video. And a lot of videos were getting, uploaded in 2015, 2016. And YouTube's algorithm was feeding you more content. And so I was like, all right, well, I can't just say I saw it on the internet. So I got to go do this myself. And I bought some expensive camera equipment and tripods and went down to the beach, and I zoomed in on a buoy that should have been 60 some odd feet below the Earth curve. And there it was. And worse than that, the surface of the water was visible for dozens of miles beyond it, where there should be hundreds of feet of curvature now. And that was the moment for me that I was like, okay, we're not on a ball. What is this place? And it's been nonstop ever since. So
Dave, so how long have you been into this? You said since 2015.
yeah, 2015 thereabouts. I don't know the exact date. You can
Yeah,
probably figure out when Mark Sargent uploaded the first couple clues. That's when I started digging in.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's an interesting subject for sure. And I've always said, and I told you this before, that I was always a little agnostic, either way on it. But I'm one of those guys that's just open to anything. In this day and age, we've been told so many different things. I mean, I grew up in the Apollo era. When I was a little kid,
so
when
did
they
I,
were
Ron.
going to the moon and all that stuff.
And that's the Apollo missions were all about hiding the flat Earth. Why hide the flat Earth? What difference does it make, right? That's where we all go. This deception is the number one way they keep us under control, right? It's the way they limit our ability to manifest. They limit our ability um, to see the world the way it is and to pull in the reality that we should be living. They're literally stopping us. This is a spiritual, magic, satanic trick that they're doing to steal our power away. And it works. And there's a lot of analogies I can use, like look at the Matrix with Keanu Reeves. At the beginning, his mind is plugged into the Matrix and he is depressed because his soul knows the truth of the world, but his mind has been programmed by the television programming, and he knows something's wrong with the world. And then by the end of the movie, he's unplugged from the mind matrix and he's taken back his power, and he's figured out who he is, where he is, and what the place is. And look at the Neo at the end of the movie and put him next to the Neo at the beginning of the movie. That's what's going on right now. This deception is how they keep us, and the other way they keep us in the control is physically with money. Right? So we're playing on their monopoly board. Go look at your monopoly board rules. And what does it say if the bank runs out of money? Do you know what it says? It says just get some pieces of paper and write some more money on it and keep playing.
The bank never runs out of money, just like our fiat system.
Yeah. So we need to get off their board. And so the way to do that is with privacy cryptocurrencies like Monero and Pirate Chain, not what they're releasing. They're going to release their federal crypto, and that's worse than their fiat dollars. If we go into a centralized cryptocurrency, we're going to be slaves for 1,000 years. Okay.
So Dave, that was one of the, you kind of answered one of my major questions that I was going to have for you tonight was, why the lie? Why the deception? Why is it so important for them to convince us that the earth is a globe when, as you're saying, it's not a globe, it's a flat earth, right? And I mean, was it Galileo that came up and said that the earth is round, and he was charged with heresy, correct?
All of that, everything before 1900, even into the early 1900s, is a lie. None of it is true. Our entire history, whether all of these, Galileo, Copernicus, all of these guys, whether they were real or not, they were Freemasons. Either way, whether fake Freemasons or real Freemasons, this is a story, his story. None of it is real. Our history is so far different than what they tell us. It's mind-blowing, and most people can't even process it. There was an advanced civilization here worldwide in the 1800s. And then we had some sort of cataclysm, man-made, God-made, don't ask me, I don't know, right? And that we had this worldwide mud flood. If you look at our transcontinental railroads, they weren't built, they were excavated out of the mud. Right. Do you know that there's another building below the Capitol building?
Yeah, I've been looking into a lot of that, and what you're touching on is Tartaria, correct?
Yep, 100%.
And I've been looking into that a lot. And one of my buddies that's going to be coming on the show, Matt, he's one of my Instagram. He's a big fan of the show too, and him and I have been talking a lot about that. And he posts a lot, and it's just really amazing to see some of these pictures of the excavations that shows these buildings that appear to be, and they appear to be big buildings to begin with.
I mean,
and then they excavate them down, and they go
they're bigger buildings.
Yeah,
right.
They're huge. They're huge.
And then if you look at these buildings that we couldn't even build today with our best cranes and our best craftsmen, they were built back in the time where people had horses and buggies, and they had no power, and built in remote places on top of high hills. All nonsense. It's our history. They've stolen our world from us. They've stolen our power from us. Why the flat earth? Why does the shape of the earth matter? The shape does not matter. It's everything each of you have in your life. Everyone listening is because of the way that you think. You bring everything in your life. If you live in fear, you bring those fearful things into your life. If you live in, hey, I'm going to have a cool mandala room and stuff, there you go. You create that stuff. You create the world that you have. And what they do is they limit our ability to see, our mind's ability to. They put us in a ball that's a prison. Okay, the world isn't. We don't live on a ball where there's nothing else. There's more beyond our world. We live in a pond. So what's out here in the outer space? Outer space, very interesting. Could there be other land, extra territory out here? Right? Could there be, there was a Japanese map that showed like 30 some odd countries, continents outside of Antarctica. We live here in the inner space. People live here on the outer space, on the extra territory. You might call them an extraterrestrial from outer space if they came to visit. They're coming just a few thousand miles instead of ridiculous light years, which are impossible.
Okay, Dave, I was going to ask you about that, and I mean, you do so many shows on Flat Earth that you already know all the questions
Every single one of them.
every single one, yeah. So, so okay, so this map that you got up right now is an interesting map. I've seen this. I also seen the map that you had put up previously. So when you're talking Flat Earth, you know, and when we talk about this subject, we talk about how Antarctica is our ice wall, correct?
Well, see, I don't like calling it an ice wall. I call it the shoreline of our world pond. Okay. It's just the shoreline. Antarctica is the highest land on Earth, right? It's the highest land on Earth. It's not a continent at the bottom of a ball. It's the shoreline that surrounds our pond. If you are going to swim in a lake and somebody removed one side of the lake, all the water is gone. You need a container. Large bodies of water need a container. Our container is the shoreline, and a lot of it is like a cliff, you know, so that's where people come up with the ice wall, because it kind of looks like a wall.
Yeah, Dave, you know, and the one thing is, I have always been interested in the hollow earth, right? Like that's something that super interests me. And when you came on Dangerous World, I had asked you, can the hollow earth work with the flat earth? And the more that I watch your videos and listen to you speak, and the more that I look into it, when Admiral Byrd came out in that interview that was actually televised,
yep,
he says there is vast lands beyond the poles. And I'm thinking,
what does that mean on a ball?
And I'm thinking to myself, okay, if it is a globe, that would be impossible. It's either that or they're lying to us. And if we are on a globe, the globe is a lot bigger than they're telling us.
Right. And so some of the distances that we can see. So the Earth has a radius. The radius is the line from the center of the Earth to the surface. So if my arm is the radius from my elbows at the center of the Earth, here is the curve of the Earth. And the radius of the Earth is just under 4,000 miles. So you can do the math and say, all right, if there's a radius of 4,000 miles, we know the curve, we can see certain far from whatever height, and that's how far you can see. Well, we, even without infrared, which sees even farther, we can see some things where the Earth would need a radius of over 250,000 miles, okay, versus 4,000. Okay, so if the Earth is a globe, which it is not, it has to be 250,000 mile radius, more than 250,000 miles compared to the 4,000 that they tell us. That's another problem. Okay.
Right.
It's not, it's flat. We're not moving, and every sense in our body tells us it's not moving, but they want us to believe nonsense.
Okay. So you definitely make a compelling case for everything that you talk about, Dave. I'm definitely okay. This graphic, I was just going to bring this up. This graphic that you have on, and the listeners can't see it, but what it is it shows us sun in our solar system spiraling through the galaxy, right? It continually moving forward. Now, my question is this, right? How come we can look up at certain times of year and see certain constellations? They're in the same place every year, you know, of course, you know, in the fall or in the winter, they change. Like let's take Orion, for instance. In the wintertime, I can walk out the deck of my house, look directly to the west, and look directly to the east, and I can see Orion. It's in the same spot in the sky every night for the whole season. If we were going through space like this graphic shows,
yeah,
the spiraling, there's no way that these constellations are going to be in these same locations that they have been in for literally thousands of years. Like you talk about Polaris, right?
Yeah.
So, and they mention in the Bible that we're on an infinite plane, right? So if we're on an infinite plane, that would make more sense than, living on a ball just spiraling randomly through space.
Right.
You know, I mean, you know, the more that I look into it, the more of a believer I become.
It's not about believing, it's about knowing. And here's the problem. People just watch the news when they come home from their slave job, and then they're like, oh, okay, now I know everything. And that's it. You're just indoctrinated. And if you go to school and grad school, you're indoctrinated farther because you're memorizing and regurgitating. You're not actually thinking, and they don't teach you to think. They teach you to memorize and regurgitate. I'm showing a picture here of the Georgia Guidestones. Very relevant to our times. It's a whole different show on what are you familiar with the Georgia Guidestones?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So skipping what's on them, basically what's playing out in our world right now, there's a little hole in one of them. And if you look through that little hole, excuse me, if you look through that little hole, do you know what you see?
Yeah, Polaris.
There's Polaris, and it doesn't move. Just on that spiral galaxy I was showing you, just one of the directions, we're going 4.4 billion miles in 1 year. 4.4 billion miles. And don't tell me there's no parallax. Don't tell me nothing moves, right? And then the Globers will tell you, well, Polaris is so far away that all of that motion for all of the years, decades, centuries doesn't have any parallax. 4.4 billion miles a year. And there's no parallax, never moves.
Right.
Please.
Yeah,
they tell us in 40,000 years, we're going to have a different North Star. And 40,000 years ago, there was a different North Star. So we, because of precession, so we happen to live in the time where the North Star lines up with Polaris. So people for the next 40,000 years, they're not going to have a Polaris. This is the story that they tell us. Okay? It's ridiculous.
Right. So anyway, Buckley, I wanted to introduce you to my other co-host, Buckley.
What's up, Buckley?
He's looks like he's got an alias there going tonight.
Can you hear me right?
Yeah, we can hear you good. Do you have some questions for Dave?
Oh, probably. I guess what I was sorry, I was a little late, so I missed the beginning. I guess one of my questions for you is like, what's the number, I guess kind of like the number one reason that you believe in flat Earth versus the sphere, I guess, that everybody's taught? Because I mean, for me, it's kind of like if I'm thinking about outer space or I'm learning about outer space, it's all stuff that's been presented to me, through space programs or television or the internet or TV. So I guess, how do you yourself know distinctly that the Earth is flat when you're probably getting a lot of your same information based off of kind of the same context?
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. And, where do you get your information? YouTube, right? So there's lots of great presentations put together on YouTube. That'll save you a lot of time. Then don't believe anything I say. Go out and verify it yourself. That's what I did. So when you understand what the heliocentric model is, that's the number one proof that the Earth is flat. The heliocentric model is literally the dumbest thing on Earth, right? So I showed you that spiraling, corkscrewing system that we're supposedly in, right? We're corkscrewing in 4 different directions at once at ridiculous speeds. As a matter of fact, we're orbiting the sun at 66,600 miles an hour, right? Let's show you how fast it is. I'm showing a picture of the hypersonic sled track, and watch. Do you see? It's going to show it again. It goes by a Mach 8.4. Okay, ready? Here it comes, and you can't even see it. It's gone. Okay, we're orbiting the sun 10 times faster than that. We're chasing the sun 90 times faster than that. Okay, and speeding up and slowing down, elliptical motions. We're rocketing in 4 different directions at once, and we have lakes that look like this, right?
Not a ripple.
Not a ripple, a mirror. Okay, just get a plate of water and try to stand still in a room, let alone take a ride in a car. Okay, with a dinner plate filled with water, right? That's basically what this is. That car turns, excuse me, speeds up, slows down, water's gone.
So, well, I guess then you're getting into the whole side of physics and gravity and all of that. So I guess kind of maybe what you're saying is that gravity is fake, or it's a narrative that's been put out that's not true.
So I'll answer that. So Neil deGrasse Tyson, the high priest of scientism, says we don't know what gravity is. And as a matter of fact, it's so bad that they have to add 96% dark matter and dark energy, because this is what they say. No one's ever seen it. No one's ever measured it, other than it has to be there because our gravity equation doesn't work without it, and it barely works with it. Okay, so gravity is a made up theory. It's never been proven. Every experiment to prove it has failed. And what it is what can be proven is the only true forces in this world are electricity and magnetism. We live on this dielectric plane, probably inside a toroidal field. That's for discussion. Yeah. The Earth has a negative charge to it, a measurable negative charge. The sky, the dome, has a positive charge. Whatever you want, whether it's physical or not, there's a positive charge up there. The Earth is a giant battery. The sun and the moon are the cathode and anode. The salt water carries the current. The land is a salt bridge. And that's where all of this energy comes from. The sun is sending electricity to the Earth. That's how solar panels work. They don't even know how solar panels work. They say, well, a photon comes out of the center of the sun after 1 billion years, and it travels 8 minutes to Earth, and it hits the solar panel, and it knocks a boron molecule out, which lets an electron go in. Baloney. It's a stupid story. It's sending electricity, and those panels are just collecting the electricity and running it into a current, right? Put a plant in front of a array of fluorescent lights and put a plant in front of a fire. One of them is going to shrivel up and die. The other one's going to grow. We are electrical beings. Everything on this earth is electrical. Everything on this earth, including rocks, were once alive. Okay. Once you understand what this place isn't, then you'll start to figure out what it is. And, that's what's going on. So we've done it. We did a test. We got a simple test. We got a helium balloon, and we had a Van der Graaf generator, which creates a negative charge. And we, hooked it up to a wire to a balloon that we had just like a little piece of metal on it, and we got it to neutrally float buoyant just a couple inches over the floor. So it's there, and the cord goes to the Van der Graaf generator, and we cranked up the negative charge. Bam, it got heavier because it had a stronger negative charge to it. What's it being attracted to? It's being attracted to the Earth. The Earth doesn't move. Everybody points down right now. We're all going to point down. If I had someone here from Australia and I said point down, they're not going to point up. Down is down. Up is up. Left and right, forward and backwards are relative to where we're standing, but down is down for everybody. It's the same.
Right. Yeah. So you're saying, just to kind of clarify, like if I were to pick an object up and just drop it and it falls to the ground, you're saying that's kind of like a magnetic pole.
So not magnetic. It's because of the negative charge to it. So if I had in my hand, I had a helium balloon, some marbles, some ping pong balls, and I'm holding them in the air above a swimming pool, and I open my hand. The balloon is going to go up because it is less dense than the air around it. So the pressure of the air is going to actually boost the balloon up. The rocks and the ping pong balls are going to fall through the air because they're more dense. The ping pong balls will sit on top of the water, and the rocks will go to the bottom, okay, because of buoyancy and density. They say gravity is a weak force. Yes. The negative charge of the Earth is a very weak force, but it just says down is this way. Okay. Down is this way. That's it. That's all it says. Yeah. And then buoyancy and density sort everything else out. You look at, we don't have anti-gravitic trains. We have maglev trains, right? You can get one of those, you can make a little anti-gravitic. It's not really anti-gravitic device. You get some tinfoil and some electrodes, and you crank a negative charge into it, and it floats. It just pops up off the ground and floats. It just put in here called anti-gravitic tinfoil triangle. Just search that in Google or YouTube, and you'll find these things. Put a negative charge in it. It overwhelms the charge of the Earth. It's very weak force, very easily done.
Yeah, Dave, and it's interesting because when you say that the Earth is negative and then the sky is positive, of course, like in automotive, what I'm in, because electrics, it's all positive, negative when you're using direct current or whatever. Mm-hmm. Just one thing, I've been talking to another friend of mine, and he was talking to me about how people could be healed, like sicknesses could be healed using frequencies in magnetics. And that kind of makes sense if it's how, you're presenting that it is, because magnetism is more in tune to what the Earth has going on versus gravity, right? So, and you talk about electricity. It's like, I've talked to electricians about electricity. Like, none of them can explain to me what it is.
Yeah,
Like they
it's not,
say,
and
Ben Franklin.
we're using dirty electricity the way they have it. The free energy that was here that Tesla pulled out of the ground and lit up the world's fairs with, that's old school technology. You look into the Tartaria stuff, all these buildings were electrical generator transmitters. They all have towers and domes, towers and domes. It was harvesting energy. You can just take a wire and hang it in the sky and it'll pull energy out of the air. These buildings were they might have been healing centers or whatever. And the symbols on top of them, the cross, the moon shape, those were energy harvesters. Everything was rewritten after the mud floods. They rewrote everything. They repurposed everything. They built doors on second floors because of the mud floods, right? And there's so much hidden. On my app, I don't know if any of you have my app. It's called the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. There's a button in there
familiar with it, Dave. Yeah.
Called The Lost History of Flat Earth. And that's a video that if you watch it, you'll watch it again. And it's 5 hours, right? My videos, if I have a 5-minute video, that's a long video for me. My videos are super short, but this video, I've watched it 3 times. I can't wait to watch it again, waiting for another rainy day.
Yeah, I actually got that sent to me and I got to take the time to watch that.
You got here's the thing. Don't start watching it and say, I want to watch 20 minutes of it at 11 p.m. because you're going to be up until 4 a.m. You will not turn it off. If you watch the first 10 minutes, you'll say, all right, 10 more minutes, and then you're done. You can't turn it off. There's no way to turn it off. So again,
it's interesting. Sorry, Dave, to interrupt you, but it's interesting when you say how these buildings with these spires and all these things are energy machines, and that would make sense. Like say we talk about the Tartaria, the world before the mud flood, all these enormous, very ornate, like intricate buildings that all have these spires. And so if these buildings were around, they had to have some type of power in them. I mean, they had to have some type of electricity in these buildings.
How did they stay warm? There's so many different things. So
and they pulled it from the ether, right? They pull
it from the ether. I think that the red bricks hold electricity. They're like batteries. Okay, so there's technology that we have just like glossed over, right? I here in Connecticut, or I live on the Long Island Sound, and across the way there's 4 giant smokestacks. It's a power plant, whatever. These are old world technology. They're not telling us what's really going on in there. They might have been converted or whatever. But the funny thing is, there are 4 in a row, giant. They're huge. If I got up there and I looked across them, lined my eye up, 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row, and drew a line all the way across the Long Island Sound, incredibly, it lines up with the single smokestack that's in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Okay, there's a very similar size smokestack there, just one. But it happens to be in a perfectly straight line to those 4, right? Why would that happen? What are the odds of that happening are 0, okay, or close to 0.
Right, and so another similar thing too, like you say, these buildings are all in alignment, or these towers, and do we know how old these smokestacks are, right? We're probably being told they're this old when in fact they could be hundreds of years older than that.
You got to watch. There's a channel, if you don't have my app, one of the channels that you have to watch is John Levy, Jon, next word Levi, like the gene, Levi. He does these 20-minute videos every week about what we're really seeing when we're out in nature. What, the story of the World's Fairs, and the stories of he lives in Salt Lake City, and these they say that this was a they found this building in the hills. They said it was a lime processing plant. I think it was lime. He's asking questions like, how did they build it? How did they get there? If they didn't have the lime first, why are they up on this hill? The story is ridiculous. All the stories we hear, the story of the Wild West, the story of the gold mines, okay? They're all absolutely insane when you look at them, okay? They're impossible. Even with today's, big trucks and power tools, we couldn't do what those guys supposedly did. With, bringing supplies out to the middle of nowhere. It makes no sense when you look at it. But we're never taught to question. We're taught, this is what happened. Move on. This is what happened. Move on. This, look at these old giant buildings that we'd have a real hard time doing today. They were built when we had horses and buggies. No friggin' way.
And no cranes.
No
right?
cranes.
Yeah, and so that brings me back to something also, like when you talk about the positive and the negative with the flat Earth, and just let's take it back thousands of years to the pyramids, right? So you have these pyramids, the Giza pyramids, right? And I've the more studying that I have done is I believe more so the story that they were power plants.
Oh, for
Right.
sure. But they're not rocks that were quarried and brought across the desert on logs by slaves. Right. They were poured. They were poured into place. They're not stones. They had a technology back then of making granite or whatever, like it's like cement. And they were made in a specific way because the tunnels underneath the pyramids, which auto self-sealed off after they were built, the place we couldn't even write the plans to build that today. The technology behind there is insane.
It's a type of concrete that's compounded more times than we can achieve with our current material sciences.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like super concrete. But yeah, David, I think you're making some fantastic points here, and it fits into everything that we've been learning about the electric universe model. And I'm just curious to expand further on that question about the constellations, because I know like for thousands of years, people have been navigating the oceans using the stars. And how could that be possible if we're, moving through this chaotic universe where, like you state, they're proposing we're going millions and millions of miles per hour. Like how would the constellations stay that steady?
Yeah. Funny you should bring up navigating by the stars. What I'm showing here for those of you looking, it's my app, the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. And every day there's a featured video. Well, today's featured video is called the #1 Flat Earth Proof. And it's sextants and navigating by the stars, because you can basically, excuse me, losing my voice. You can use a sextant to figure, okay, I'm at this latitude, I'm 30 degrees south, I'm on this area of the Earth, and somebody on the western side of that can say I'm 30 degrees west, and they're on the same flat area. Well, the miles between them is all flat. There's no curvature, and you can map out the whole world, and it's flat. Google Earth, by the way, used to be flat. Okay, and I don't know how long ago it was, maybe 10 years or 20 years ago. They put it around a ball. They just made it. That was like the big thing, right? Before flat Earth was a thing. Before flat Earth was common knowledge. Now they wrap Google Earth around a ball. What the heck's up with that? And that source code is not available. The GPS, right? GPS source code is private. It's not open source. Why? What are they hiding? And what they're hiding is a bunch of nonsense. Okay. They're literally taking flat maps and wrapping them around balls. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Airplanes, I'm sure we talked about that when we talked. Airplanes prove the Earth is flat. Emergency landings, there's over 16 of them that absolutely prove the Earth is flat.
Yeah, sorry, Dave. We were just having some technical difficulties with Kristen's microphone. But yeah, so that's all, very, very interesting how that whole deal works. And that brings up, like you say, how you said before, like everything was alive, the rocks were alive, the stones were alive, and all this. And I mean, we look at all these buildings that are built, with masonry and things like that. So all this technology had to exist like a long time ago. Sure. And my question was, before you said that these blocks were poured and this and that poured in place, my question was, do you think that they used the ether, the positive and negative charges to somehow make these rocks levitate to build the pyramids or anything like that? Or do you think that we had help from the beings that live out beyond the poles? And then after we talk about that, and that's going to bring me to my next question.
Maybe they lived here and before this was destroyed. And there's a great video that just came out like 6 months ago about the pyramids. think if you just Google pyramids, poured concrete, it's like it's pretty long, but it shows you exactly how they built it. And everything they say, it's something that we could actually do today. So did they have help? I think they were very advanced. I think they had they knew the secrets of moving heavy things. Okay, just like where Edward Leeds Scallon is, who built Coral Castle in Florida. Not only did he build that castle where you could one finger move an 11-ton swinging door, he had it balanced so perfectly. How did he know where that balancing point was? And not only did he build it, he moved it. He decided to move it one day, and he moved it single-handedly. He just had a truck drops off next morning, the guy comes back, and the big block is on the truck. It's like, how did he do it? How did he do it? Like you would need like 3 of our massive cranes today to lift some of these blocks. So I believe they had that technology back then, and also the concrete technology, and also super advanced knowledge of what our world is. If you think you're on a spinning ball, you're not going to figure anything out. You're not going to figure anything out. You're going to be lost. You might do well. You might fare well in this frigging game we're in on their Monopoly board, but it's not really fulfilling your true life purpose.
Okay, so I kind of agree with you there, Dave. But my question is, getting back to the lands beyond the poles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we all talk about, because the whole UFO UAP subject is a really big one for me as well, and I always wondered to myself, how did these beings come, allegedly so far? My biggest question was, what on earth was their propulsion system, right? Because it makes more sense that they would be, and not only that, go through the Van Allen belt, go through the radiation belt, come through re-entry, and do all this multiple times without burning their ships up,
Cool story.
So I mean, to me, it makes more sense that these beings, or not extraterrestrials, but interterrestrials, are actually out beyond the poles,
right?
Living in these islands like Lemuria and some of the other ones that are on these
or
maps.
even within our realm. There's swaths of ocean that are off limits. GPS will not bring you there. NASA controls GPS. NASA controls airplane routes. NASA controls the radar, right? It's their control. As I was saying, the emergency landings is when they're in a pinch and they have to land, and it doesn't make any sense, right? Where they have to land in places that really that wouldn't happen. I mean, if you look at a flight route from Perth to Buenos Aires, the shortest route, according to FlightAware, is right over Antarctica, but they don't allow you to fly over Antarctica, so you'd have to go around. That would be the shortest route. But see, that's not the route that they take. They would actually go from Perth all the way up to the north to Chicago or LA, or it starts in Miami or Chicago, then LA or Houston, not Chicago. And then it goes to Sydney, and then it goes all the way over to Perth. It takes like 26 hours. Well, that's the opposite direction that you should go on a ball. Or sometimes it goes the other way to Europe, Singapore, and Perth, right?
Yeah, and that makes a good argument. And I asked you this before, but for the listeners, right? So we talked about this, like, and now we're hearing that there are direct flights, but
there are direct flights.
When I looked into it before, you could not go directly from Australia to Chile. You had to go from Australia to North America and then to Chile. But when you look at it on a flat Earth map or a flat Earth model, it's a direct flight.
Well, they do a nonstop flight. It's Q4, whatever. I forget the number of the flight, but there's only
Qantas.
Yeah, there's only 4 pilots, I believe, that are flying it. They're military, probably Freemasons. The plane is a specific plane. The plane has 7 layers. When we started researching this plane, it had 7 layers of heat-resistant paint. What does that tell you? Okay. Right. And sometimes the arrival and the arrival times, depending on which direction and which the weather is, are 5 hours different. Why is 5 hours? That's huge. Okay. And they're going all the way across. What happened? You guys still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. Someone's sharing, I think.
Yeah.
There you go. Right. And there's no flights available in the southern to southern locations. You never see them. They leave the coast and they disappear off radar.
This is live, by the way. Anybody can go to flightradar24.com and see this at any point in the day. I've looked at this many times, and David's right. There's never any flights in this large area of Pacific Ocean, and even on globes and maps, they admit that it's so quote unquote vast that they just kind of fudge the numbers on where it is. So to me, it just seems like it fits perfectly into this deception.
Going from California to Hawaii, you're off radar. You're in approximated position when you're 100 miles or so offshore. And then when the plane gets right near Hawaii, bam, it pops back on to the radar, right? Sometimes they'll put a plane out there, but it's not really there. You're looking at a cartoon, right? You know, and it's just like, you know, talking about space and air travel, space travel and everything. All we're shown is cartoons. It's all cartoons, CGI nonsense. Nobody has ever gone up in a rocket except some stuntmen, and some of them killed themselves.
Yeah. So, Dave, can you tell us a little bit about like all these stunts like Elon Musk is doing and Jeff Bezos, where they're flying out out of the atmosphere or as close to the atmosphere as they can, and all these guys, you know, who have more money than they know what to do with. Richard Branson, another example.
Yeah, both of them
are these all just stunts? Are they just
stunts? And they're not even real. Like they always have the girl with the long hair flipping around. Okay, this is to show you that they're in a zero-G plane. Richard's about to throw up. Okay, they're in a zero-G plane that gets about 45 seconds max of zero-G. Okay, and so they put him up in this thing that was outfitted or green screened to look like his plane, and then it did a whole bunch of parabolic turns, and they got their footage. Now they said he had 4.5 minutes of weightlessness. Where's the footage? There is no footage. Well, they turn the camera off. Okay, they only show 5-second clips max of weightlessness. 5-second cut, 5 seconds cut. It's because it's a whole bunch of different trips spun together. So that's all it is. We called them out so clearly that Neil deGrasse Tyson had to backpedal and move the globe post again. And he said, yeah, they didn't really go into space. And he admitted that they're doing a hyperbolic loop, but that's not even a hyperbolic curve. That's not even the case, so because they didn't in that plane. None of that happened. No one was in that rocket that Jeff Bezos took off in. It's all a CGI production.
Okay, so and that brings me back to, we talked about this before, the pictures of the globe from space. Now we're finding out that there is no actual pictures. Like I had this discussion with one of my customers today, and he's like, well, of course the Earth is, we see pictures of it. And I said, I don't think those are real pictures. Could you explain to the listeners what the deal is with that?
Yeah, NASA admits there's no real pictures of Earth. They admit it. Okay. Everybody had the blue marble on their iPhone when the iPhones came out, and that was just basically hypnosis. Well, the visual artist named Robert Simmons from NASA, he did a radio show and said how he made it in Photoshop just from data. Not even from pictures, and he painted it, and he was lazy. He actually stepped and repeated the same clouds again and again.
Okay, I was going to bring that up because I was looking at pictures of the globe allegedly taken from space, and I see replicated clouds.
Yeah,
which just is not possible. It's not possible.
Yeah, and also the different size of the continents, right? But then you'll have people like, well, I know a lot about cameras, and the United States looks twice its size because you're zoomed in and you're not really seeing, the sides of the Earth. And that's not true, because we can look at it. We can look at the 2012 picture and whatever, and we can measure across Mexico and Baja. We know it's 934 miles because that's something we can verify down here on Earth. So we look at that, and we look at the diameter, which is a straight line through the Earth, which is 7,917 miles. I should be able to fit Baja to the end of Mexico in there 8.5 times. But as you can see by this diagram, it's way, way, way too big of a space. So this is not even a photo, a crappy photo. It's a crappy painting, okay? Because they don't have their sizes right. There's no way this can be the Earth. Look at the United States. It covers. Where's the rest of the planet, the rest of the world? Then another thing they threw at us, we had the 1978 painting of Earth That NASA never even uses the word photo ever. They never use the word photo. They say image or picture because they don't want to lie. 2017, they said, look what global pollution has done. Look how dingy the earth is. This was huge. This was all over the news. But problem is the clouds from 1978 to 2017 never changed. They're the same
Yeah,
clouds.
you can see it clearly.
Now, here's a question for you, Ron. Are they lazy, stupid, or are they just rubbing it in our face?
Well, you kind of got to wonder if they're like all these other conspiracies that we talk about. They're saying, and they're doing it right in front of our face, like they're taunting us,
right?
Like they know what they're doing is hiding the lie or perpetuating the lie, and here we are trying to debunk them, right? And then you see pictures like this, and it's like, okay, clearly that's either stupidity, laziness.
You just have to catch them once.
Taunting us.
Catch them lying once, and it's over. It's over. Okay.
Dave, I think Kristen wants. I think Kristen's got a couple of questions for you if she can unmute.
Kristen's been very quiet. I'm thinking that she thinks the Earth is a globe and that I'm crazy.
Well, she was having some problems with her mic, but yeah, Kristen, Dave, this is my other co-host, Kristen.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I forget what topic it was, but all of a sudden, like, my laptop completely shut down. My phone started talking to me and I couldn't touch anything. Had to restart that. Like, everything was glitching out. I've never seen that happen.
You missed all the good stuff.
I hope not. I'll rewatch it though.
Okay.
So a couple of questions I have. So did you say yes that the hollow earth theory could work with flat earth theory, or
I did not. So it half works. Let me explain. Okay. The hollow earth theory was brought out after Admiral Byrd did his flight over Antarctica, said there's more land beyond the poles, bigger than the United States, filled with resources that no human has ever set foot upon. We must never go there. Okay. And all the countries in the world signed on. Ridiculous. Okay. Because we can't disturb the penguins or pollute the ice. That's the reason. All right. But deforest the Amazon. That's fine. So he said he found this land. So they came up with the hollow earth, or they grabbed the hollow earth theory, because that is an interesting theory. I used to love the hollow earth, but the flat earth plane, if you look at Santos Bonacci's work, he talks about 7 different layers. That's better than the hollow earth. Okay. You got heavens above and more layers below us. The deepest hole ever dug is called the Great Borehole in Russia. It took years, and they only got down 7.5 miles, just under 8 miles. And then they hit an impenetrable barrier. Okay. So what's below that barrier? Is that barrier like the barrier maybe above us? Maybe there's a firmament below us and a firmament above us. Again, none of us know. So are there civilizations underneath us? Possible. I mean, there's lots of tunnels all over this world, all over this country. There's all sorts of stuff going on there. There's all sorts of things below us. Could there be another world with another sun down there? Maybe. I don't know.
Interesting. I was going to ask what's underneath. So that's
yeah.
Cool.
So the biggest, I said the biggest hole ever dug, when they were digging it, they used ground penetrating radar to see what they were going to find. And they were wrong every step of the way. Every time they said no more rocks, they hit more rocks, no more water, they hit more water. And so to put it into scale, that's like drilling halfway through the skin of an apple. Okay. Halfway through the skin of the apple, they hit an impenetrable barrier they can't get through, but then they know what the next 4,000 miles is. Okay. They know that the 4,000 miles down to a molten metal core, a molten magnetic core. If you know anything about magnets, you heat them up before they melt to get to the Curie point, and that's where they lose their magnetism. So the fact that they're claiming there's a molten metal core is absolutely ridiculous.
Okay, so I have a question for you, Dave. Would it be possible, because if we are covered by the firmament or the dome that they speak about in the Bible, right? Mm-hmm. If we're on an infinite plane,
I don't know if it's infinite. I call it an extended plane.
Okay, well, somewhere, I'm almost positive it says in the Bible that we're on an infinite plane.
Well, they have infinite space. We have an infinite plane. I'll call it a draw.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, how big is this dome? Is there a possibility that we are a flat Earth inside of a clear sphere? where we have it. It's below us and it's above us.
Yeah. So
and what's above the dome?
So when we look at the flat Earth and at the models of it, it shows this big bulbous snow globe dome. Well, that if you look at the scale of that dome is tens of thousands of miles high in the middle. And what we have seen and tested, rockets going up, nothing can get past 62 miles. It appears it hits something up there. If you look at the Go Fast rocket, it hit something at 62 miles, something a thicker medium. So 62 miles on a scale this big would literally, you wouldn't feel even, it would almost look like a flat glass on top of it. It would, at the highest point, it would almost be touching, right? 62 miles is very, very small on here. So I believe that the sky that we see is flat, just like the Earth is flat. And it's the stars, the fixed stars, the luminaries are fixed within that firmament. And that firmament is spinning above us on an axis, which is the North Star is at the center. Then we have a wandering.
Sorry. How did the dome get there? Like, what do you have any idea what it's made out of? Who put it there, or is it just naturally?
It's made of polyurethane, and I think the Jews did it. All right, I'm just kidding. I just throwing that out there.
Damn Jews!
They got their hands in everything.
Yes,
so I can say that because I'm Jewish. Here's what happened: is I was, not to label myself an atheist. I didn't believe in a creator, God. I believed in evolution. I believed in the Big Bang, and I believed in science, what they taught me in the textbooks. And then when I was forced to look into flat Earth, I realized, this place is intelligently designed, which means there's a designer, there's a creator. Somebody created this. Who? I don't know. I wasn't here, right? I would call it a creator. Some people would like to say the word God. Some people would like to, maybe some people think it's aliens. I don't know. I wasn't here, but this place is intelligently designed beyond what we can fathom. I think some of the stuff that we see from Tartaria and the pyramids and stuff are on the level of the creation of the Earth. Maybe when the Earth was created, a lot of that stuff was created, or that knowledge was given to the master races that lived here. I don't know, but it appears that the sky that we see is very, very, very close. Some flat earthers say, or ball earthers, that try to debunk flat earthers say that the sun's 3,000 miles away and it's 30 miles wide, and it would never set. And they could do math and prove it. Yeah, that's pretty good. But I don't believe that at all. I believe that the sun that we see is not very high above the clouds, and that we all see it in a position relative to our own. When we send a balloon up to 100, 120,000 feet, the sun is never above it. It's always right off to the side. It's always right there, and it's close. It's a local light. Okay. I believe that the sun that we see is in a different position for all of us. If two of us were outside, watching looking at a giant mirror, we have a giant mirror standing up, sun setting behind us, we're 50 yards apart, and we're looking at the sun in the mirror. Well, that sun, I know for a fact, will reflect the sun's light and heat the same as the real sun that's on the other side of us. But when I send a third person up to that mirror with a Sharpie, I say, draw a circle right there. That's where I see the sun, right? Then another person goes over to where Ron is, and he says, I see the sun right there. Well, those two circles are going to be 50 yards apart. What are we looking at? Are we looking at the same thing? Okay. So I believe that the real sun, this is my belief, and we could do experiments to kind of recreate it, that the real sun is outside of the firmament, projecting into our firmament, projecting a sun into our world, just like a magnifying glass, where you burned ants when you're a kid. It's the same thing. And it's focusing that energy point here. And that's how I think it works. And there's lots of evidence to support it. Sometimes when the conditions are right, especially during a solar eclipse, you can kind of see that projector behind the sun. Just like if you're watching a rear projection, like a movie being projected onto a sheet in this, a bed sheet. Remember when you're kids, they would project a movie from the rear, and you could look through the sheet and see the projector. You could see the source of that light. Okay. Sometimes we can see the source of the sun when the conditions are right. And I have a couple of videos where we had filmed it, and then I recreated how the eclipse happens using my model, and it worked perfectly. And it's in the app under what about eclipses, right? All the questions that you have about flat Earth are in the app. So by the way, if you Google flat Earth, you're not going to find anything other than what they want you to find, which is going to make you laugh and give up and get frustrated, because you won't find anything like I did when I was searching. That was all fed to me. That helped me become a flat earther. But now all that information's hidden. That's why I created the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. It'll feed you videos every day. It has all the questions, 21 questions answered. What about seasons? What about, day and night? What about ships over the horizon? All the questions you could ask, they're in there, and all of the videos to support it are in there. Tons of other information, Tataria, the lost history of flat Earth. All my interviews are in there. Also, another way we're adding it, you can now find every other flat Earth app user near you. It's coming out in like a week or two. You can pull it and you can say, hey, there's other flat earthers near me, and you can message them. You can send them a message like, hey, I'm going to the little pub, meet me there for a beer. Bam, new best friend.
Yeah, when you talked about that with my buddy Andrew Rouse over at the Deep Share podcast, and so him and we talk pretty frequently, and I told him that you were coming on the show, and he was like, oh, dude, that's awesome. And I says, yeah, so he's going to, I wanted to talk about the app. And I think, we don't need to get like super deep into all these questions that can just easily be answered on the app. So I encourage people to go and check that out. And if you have any questions, well, they might be able to be answered like right through the app. And I mean, and it's cheap money, right?
It's all there. The app's $3. You don't have to. There's a subscription. You don't have to get it. You still get everything. And it just remember to hit the question mark, and there are your questions. Hey, what about eclipses? And if I hit what about eclipses, up comes a playlist. You hit open YouTube, and there comes a playlist of videos that YouTube will not serve you. They don't want you seeing these, because if you see these, you'll realize the heliocentric model is the dumbest thing on Earth.
Yeah, and that still brings me back to why is it so important for them to lie? I know it's about control. I know obviously they control us with money, because without money you have nothing, right? I mean, it would be nice. Like I always used to say, I don't know who the jerk is that invented money or the jerk that invented work, because I don't know what he was thinking of, right? And now we're all stuck doing that. We trade off so many hours and days and months and years of our life just to make
all
a
of it,
few little pieces, pieces of paper, like pieces of paper.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. Imagine
the paper things, Dave, that we could get for free if we had free energy.
When you say you don't understand why you're suffering from Stockholm syndrome, imagine if you were in an apartment building that was 10 miles wide by 10 miles wide, but the last quarter mile to the outside wall, and there's no windows, no doors. You're just inside this place. There's everything in there. You got supermarket, you got food, you got growing, you got all sorts of stuff, right? And you're not allowed within a quarter mile of the outside wall, just not allowed to go there ever. No one, it's guarded. That's your whole world, right? You get your job in there, you meet your wife in there, you have kids in there, you do everything in there, and you're in this world, okay? And someone comes to you and go, hey, Ron, there's more beyond there. There's more. And you go, what does it matter? What does it matter? Right? I'm doing well in here. I've got my bicycle. I've got, whatever. Okay. You are limiting yourself. We are in an unlimited world with unlimited resources, unlimited land, unlimited everything. And they want us to think, they want you to think it's limited. And they're limiting your ability to understand that you are a powerful, excuse me, you are a powerful being that can create your own reality, and they don't want you to know that. Right, living in fear.
So I'm one of those guys, if somebody came up to me and said that, I'd say, really? Okay, so we definitely need to go check that out. And that's why I got into researching this. Actually, before I actually met you, I was watching some of your videos and some things like that. And it's very interesting to me. And when I hear that there's, vast lands beyond the poles, and when is this? And now this whole Tartaria thing, which just blows my mind, right? Absolutely blows my mind. And I'm like, okay, so I'm a firm believer that, we might be the fourth or fifth civilization that's been here, and that we were way advanced, like way advanced. Like
we are in the middle of the movie Idiocracy. We are not at the top of our game. The technology that was here in the 1800s makes us look like cavemen right now. Okay.
Yeah. So Dave, what is this graphic that you have up right now?
This is just a possibility of the outer worlds beyond us. Maybe we're domes inside of domes inside of domes. Maybe the domes are physical. Maybe they're energetic. I don't know. Right. I personally don't think that the domes are big, high domes like that. But again, I don't know.
Could they just be force fields? I'm sorry, Chris.
They could be very much so. Absolutely. And some people believe that, when the stars and the planets align in certain ways, that there's openings and there's times like we go through these ages, right? And at different times, maybe you can pass through. So I'm going to show you another map, and I'll try to describe it for the listeners. But are you guys familiar with the clock in Prague, the big clock on the building, the ancient clock? And it's got like circles within circles. It's this crazy clock, and it shows ages. I'm trying to find it as I'm talking here, but I believe that the world that we live in is a bigger world than just our pond, right? But our pond, where the heck is it, is migrating through the system, right? So what does that mean? And the way it works is, God, if I could find this, that would be really.
So Dave, do you think that our flat Earth is actually moving where we are? I mean, stationary plane, but moving also at the same time, if that makes any sense?
Floating?
It's not floating. Our Earth is not moving, but our living area is moving across the bigger Earth. Does that make sense? So,
like a continental shelf.
So imagine a giant, massive land, just massive, right? And then I wish I could just pull up the graphic. That would be super handy. And there's a puddle melted out in a certain area. The rest is all frozen, okay? Because our sun isn't there. Our sun is making a circle, migrating in and out of that circle, and that keeps our land free. So that our sun follows a circle around in a great year. It's 25,000 years. So every 2,160 years, it moves 15 degrees. Oh, here it is. I finally found it. There we go. So what we're showing here, it's actually an inverted picture of the moon. And this green area is our known world. And the outer white line is the shoreline of our world. Everything outside of that line is frozen. So all of this land, this is the unknown world, right? You have these other circles in here, and you can see that the sun is on the equator. No, the sun is on the Tropic of Capricorn. So this means this picture is around in December. So the sun is migrating in and out as it goes around our world, and this puddle. So this puddle is migrating. Maybe it's migrating counterclockwise, and it takes 25,000 years to go around. So in 12,000 years from now, this puddle will be over here. So this is where our world will be, and this will be an ice age over here. This red line here is our North Pole. Our North Pole follows this magnetic line around, and that's where our sun is always circling our North Pole. So I'm slowly going around. 12,000 years from now, our sun will be circling out here and melt out a pond here, and this will be an ice age. That's why when you look at Antarctica, there's stuff under the ice. There's buildings under the ice.
Oh, Dave, we see
previous
maps,
generation.
We see maps, like old maps, and I can't remember the name of them, that thousands of years old, that show Antarctica with animals and vegetation and no ice.
Tropical.
And things like that.
So think about it.
That makes sense with this model.
Yeah. So these are all of these lands here at this distance from the center will all be tropical. These are all going to be tropical lands.
Now,
right? And right now, this is considered Antarctica. Go ahead.
This magnetic line here, do we see structures built along this line, or is there any evidence that the people keeping this information from us are utilizing
No one's allowed to go
this?
here.
Right.
This is the North Pole. No one's allowed to go there. It's off limits.
Have
We were all
you,
shown. What's that?
Have you ever looked into the theories, or well, the information about how they're blowing up nuclear weapons up there in the Arctic, supposedly trying to melt the ice caps and turn it into some kind of tourist paradise?
I say cool story. There probably already is a tourist paradise in there. There could be another whole nother world at the center of our world. But there is no such thing as nuclear bombs. Where does that come from? What about Nagasaki and Hiroshima? And if you look at the story of how Nagasaki and Hiroshima, I highly recommend, if you don't know about this, subscribe to the Crow with 2 R's 777 Radio podcast and look up the episodes on no nukes, right? But in short, after Nagasaki and Hiroshima, after there's videos of them stockpiling TNT at the detonation sites, 3 days later, the trains were running, the flower shops were open, people were back to work, they were selling sandwiches in the delis. Does that sound like a nuclear bomb? And nobody, only one reporter for, I believe, like the New York Times or some American Associated Press or whatever, one reporter was allowed to take pictures and write articles. Anyone else wrote a paper, wrote an article, or took a photo, put in jail. Okay, that's tight control. There's less cancer in those places than there is here in the United States. Plants, animals, and people have always thrived there. 3 days later, the shops were open. They don't want you to know that.
Have you seen pictures of modern day Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
Yeah,
like these vast, beautiful cities.
Yeah. And then there was a bomb that went off, and if you look at the pattern of fire all around the city, anything that had fireproofing didn't burn down. Anything that did, burned down. Yeah. So it was just a reset. It's all just the first story, and it's to make everyone believe in nuclear bombs. That way, everybody will behave. Oh my God, the Samsung option. Right now, Afghanistan. OPEC just signed up with the Russians, which means the petrodollar is dead. All stage fare. This is what's going on now. Is a cover for why the dollar is going to collapse. It's going to become the Venezuelan money in no time. Okay.
So Dave, hold on one second.
Whole nother show.
Kristen, did you have some questions you wanted to come back at Dave with?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, I have like 4 or 5. Are the images that you show on your app, like the ones you've like the different maps and stuff, are those within your app too?
Absolutely. So let me just pull it up real quick. If you go to the images button, up come all sorts of images, from, hey, we went to the moon in this. Right. There's guys in there in that on the moon. Right. And I have the maps in here, all sorts of stuff. People say, and the airplane routes, when people say, why don't we go, how do they stop us from exploring Antarctica? And the answer is, you remember the Falkland Wars?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So these are all of the islands that the Crown controls. And this is where they have military bases. And the Falklands were one of those islands. Okay. So this is how they guard Antarctica.
Do you think that that there are any like caves or entrances into the pond or what?
You mean, entrances into the other lands?
Yeah.
So there is a story called the Iron Republic where a senator that retired and was tired of what was going on here. He went to Antarctica on the ship and he found can you see my mouse? He found an opening and he went through and he ended up out in the ocean and he was lost. He was lost in the ocean for a month, and then they came across some land and a boat came out and greeted them. And they said, hey, where are we? They're like, oh, this is the Iron Republic. And he's like, where are you from? It's America. He goes, where's the Iron Republic? And they're like, well, it's on the other side of Antarctica, about equidistant that the United States is. And they didn't quite understand that. And they went in and they basically, told a story of, this was in 1901 or somewhere around there, late 1800s. electric cars, flat screens, keyboards, all sorts of like advanced technology, some stuff that we don't even have now, in a whole different society. And they're like, where did you come from? They go, well, we used to live somewhere in the middle of the, in the earth. Where we live, he goes, but we didn't like in the 1600s, we didn't like the tyranny that was going on. So we all left and we went to these outer spaces.
Yeah, that sounds
they
like
don't want
I'd
us
like to
knowing that that's an option.
Yeah.
What if the continents that we know of only account for 1% of our known world? Do you think the elite would have a problem? Like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. People would be like, I'm going out there. So how do you get out there? Well, the easiest way would be an airship. Well, they demonized hydrogen. They tied it in with the hydrogen bomb. They made the Hindenburg blow up, which was a whole psyop. And so hydrogen is too dangerous. And guess who controls all of the helium in the world? NASA. NASA and SpaceX have just recently, for some reason, they are buying more helium than ever in history in the last couple of months, right? They're doing something. They admit that there's over 50,000 balloons in the air at all times. They launch 50 new balloons every day, and some of those stay up there for years.
Now, Dave, is this what you say with the actual GPS satellites are? They're actually not satellites and they're just attached to balloons?
Well, that's what's going on, but GPS is nonsense. Everything's done with underwater cables. 99% of the world's communications is done with ground-based systems. I mean, the way you can find where you left your iPhone is because there's a whole bunch of towers around that aren't moving, nor is the land moving, and they can triangulate where your phone is versus something falling around the earth faster than the speed of sound, keeping up with all of those spiraling motions of the earth. That's absolute nonsense. I mean, Arthur C. Clarke wrote a fictional story about satellites, and a few years later, we have satellites. You have to believe that with the earth corkscrewing through space, all of these things somehow mirror all of those motions. We break.
So that's my question. Like when you see this graphic right here is showing all the satellites, right? And I mean, that's just unbelievable, right? So when they shoot these rockets off, SpaceX or Blue Origin or whatever, even NASA, what are the odds of them getting through that without smashing into something?
Well,
it wouldn't be possible.
No, I'll fight on their side with that because even if there's 50,000 of them up there, they'd be so far apart and so small, the chances of you hitting it would be small, but that's just ridiculous. They don't launch anything. There is no outer space. I'm going to show a video and I'm going to talk about it as we go. This is the Starship by SpaceX, and you have to believe this is real. This thing weighs, I don't know, couple million pounds on takeoff, and when it comes down, it weighs over 40 tons, right? This is all CGI crap. So it might be real as far as the launch goes. It could be a helium balloon, but this thing goes up and then it free falls back to Earth and lands upright. Okay. It's the most ridiculous thing. When they switch between the onboard camera and the ground camera, from the ground, you can see that it's very close to the ground by look how the angle it's shooting at. And look at the smoke. How fast is this thing falling? This thing's free falling. It weighs like 40 tons. And it's free falling. And watch the next shot. Look at the smoke. It's barely moving. This thing is a helium balloon, right? But then when they land it, look, and then now all of a sudden it's higher than the clouds. And then the next shot, it's just right there, side shot. If that was higher than the clouds, how are they getting that side shot? Now watch. It's going to turn on its 3 engines. It's high again, all of a sudden. This is real time. This is not edited. And it's going to turn its 3 engines on. It's going to stop. 2 of the engines are going to go out, and it's going to land perfectly upright. Now, who took this picture underneath this thing falling out of the sky? Yeah. Okay. Now watch, 2 of the engines are going to go out, and that little flame, this thing's barely moving. If you look at the smoke, it's going to land with a lot of CGI smoke. Watch the CGI smoke. There it is. And it's going to land upright. You have to believe that this thing is real. Yeah, this is nonsense.
I don't see how they could possibly do that on one engine.
This is complete and total nonsense. The thing is, they use different techniques. Sometimes we watch a launch that's complete CGI. This is not here. I call this the Tupac rocket. Okay, just like Tupac was on the stage, this is a complete hologram, for lack of a better word. We were snooping around on some Google Earth shots of NASA's base, and we're like, what are these lights? These weird lights, spotlights. And we were able to zoom in close enough on one of their shots where we got a serial number and a company name. We looked it up, and it was a holographic projection company. Yeah. Why does NASA have holographic projection instruments on their grounds? There was a whole bunch of them. Watch what happens. There was a glitch in this rocket.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. This is a projected image. Yeah. It's not real.
Yeah, and these are the holograms that they're gonna stick Project Bluebeam on us with, right?
For sure.
So, Dave, I know we're getting short on time. We got you for about another 5 minutes, but I did have a question for you.
Shoot.
Are there different factions within the flat Earth community that kind of argue or to have different views with each other, like how there's different factions in the UFO community?
Well, I wouldn't call them the different factions. We do actively discuss different ideas. Some people don't believe that there's a downward forces needed for what we call gravity. Some people think it's just buoyancy and density, but I disagree with that, but that's okay. We're trying to figure it out. Well, some of us don't believe there's a dome. Some of us believe that the dome is flat, like myself. Some of us believe that there's a high dome. Some of us believe that there's just one puddle. Some of us believe that there's a billion other puddles. Okay. Some of us believe that God just created this, and some people believe that there's many others. That's okay. We're trying to figure that out, but we all can scientifically prove and agree that we're not on a spinning water ball flying through space at ridiculous speeds. We all agree on that. So are we different factions? No, we're just trying to figure it out. And we know that we don't know a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, David, I had so many other questions for you too, but I know time was limited for you. But, I really like to get you back on the show, like, in a couple of months. I know you've got this was booked out over a month ago, trying to get you. I know you're a really super busy guy, but you definitely laid down a compelling case. Buckley, did you have any final questions for Dave?
Yeah. So I guess, I'm not really sold one way or the other on flat Earth or sphere, or hollow Earth.
So let me just ask you one question. What would be your number one reason that you think the Earth could possibly be a spinning ball flying through an infinite vacuum?
Well, like I'm saying, I don't really have one. So
right.
I'm not really saying flat Earth exists or
Nope.
It doesn't exist, and I'm not saying that the sphere theory exists or it doesn't exist. Did I freeze up a little bit?
No bad.
So I guess what I'm trying to just say is I do agree, though. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I do agree, though, that we're more than likely being lied to, or we're not being told things that that happen in history, or we're being misled all the time and manipulated, as well as, because a flat Earth theory, that was kind of like a taught theory up until the 1940s or something like that.
It was what they taught everybody until the 1930s, somewhere around there, 40s.
So I guess so earlier in the show, and more recently, you were kind of talking about how your thoughts and how you perceive things can kind of create your reality around you. So I guess maybe, do you foresee in any way at all that the flat Earth and the spherical Earth could exist in the same universe or realm, based on how people perceive the world around them and their thoughts on reality?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I believe that we live on a dielectric plane inside a toroidal field. So you may feel that's a sphere, but we're on a plane within that sphere. Okay. And we can prove large bodies of water at rest lay flat, scientifically testably, provably flat. So I don't care. Sphere? No, sorry, water lays flat. Is there a dome over us? Then you can call that a sphere. We're on the inside of it. You could, but I don't know. You have to prove there's a dome first.
But you don't think it's subject to how I might perceive it being a sphere?
You might perceive that, but that makes that then you're in full on simulation theory. And I'm not a believer in that. But
in simulation theory,
I believe that we are in what I call a physical simulation. Right. This is a realm that we're in. This is my personal belief. Again, It's subject to change, but we are here experiencing the mind of the creator with a spark in us that we call a soul. The soul is the currency of this world, and our goal here is to maintain control of our soul. And there's some rules, and as long as you
like a god created the world or the flat Earth, correct? I mean, isn't that kind of creation basically a simulation?
I don't know. I could build a house, create a house, and it's not a simulation, you know.
Yeah, I think the whole simulation thing is another subject. I mean, we did a show on simulation a few weeks ago. Actually, it's our biggest show so far. Funny enough, but yeah, I wish we had more time to like for you to answer Buckley's question, but I think we're at the mark.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think I can really answer the question because I can't prove that this world isn't just working around me and I'm the only thing that's experiencing it, right? And that as soon as this goes off, you guys don't disappear. I can't prove any of that.
I have one quick thing. So if I was gonna try and convince someone the Earth was flat, or just kind of spark them onto the idea and something to say to them, what would I approach them with?
We can see too far.
We can see too far, like the straight way across and seeing things.
We can see things that are too far away, you know.
Okay. That go beyond the Earth's curvature?
That should be miles below the curvature. Okay. We can see things.
All right.
But now the fact that you can't see some things just has to do with atmospheric density and the way our eyes work. Again, watch my videos, watch my interviews, watch the videos on the app. Get the app, the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. On Google Play, sometimes they're trying to trick you to get another one by the Ron Media Group, which is like the Flat Earth Society, not us. So get the app.
I'll put all that info in the show notes.
I'm offering 3 Bitcoins for anybody that can come up with one proof of the globe, but you have to get the app and you have to watch the daily video every day for 2 weeks. And at the end of that 2 weeks, if you think you have a proof of the globe, you can send it to me, but check the frequently asked questions first because it's probably in there. And then
what's a Bitcoin at nowadays?
Like 50 grand.
Damn.
Yeah, no, Dave, I was going to ask you about that because when I remember back when it was 1 Bitcoin, so you've upped the ante quite a bit.
3.
So that's very cool. Dave, you want to let everybody know where they can find you? I mean, you're pretty easy to find.
Easy to find. Flat Earth Dave, flatearthdave.com will bring you to my website. And the app is the best place to find me, especially, and it's going to be the best place to find other flat earthers very soon.
Okay, so I know you got to go, Dave. I really want to thank you for coming on. It was a great show. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I have a ton more questions for you, but we're going to have to get you another time.
All right, man. Thanks. See you guys.
So yeah, take care, Dave. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks. Send me a link when this is up, all right?
I will do that, Dave. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.